What's up you guys, my name is Oscar, and in today's video I want to go over why making more money almost never solves people's problems like they expect it to, and how in some cases it can actually leave them worse off. It is the reason why 70% of lottery winners go broke within 3 to 5 years, and why almost half of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So if you would like to know what helps me to avoid making the same mistakes, and what helps me to save an average of $1,500 a month, you might want to stick around because odds are you cannot afford to miss this information. So with that said, let's get started. Now you may be wondering, how is it a bad thing to make more money? And the answer to that is that it's not. Well, I suppose it depends on how you made that money. What I'm referring to is that when people make more money, they tend to increase their spending alongside it, and this is known as lifestyle inflation. So for instance, if you were already tight on money and then got a raise, most people would see that as extra spending money, so they might start ordering takeout whenever they would ordinarily cook at home, or they might buy a more expensive car because they can afford the higher monthly payments. So this just becomes an endless cycle of earning more money and finding more ways to spend it, which when you take a step back, you'll notice that while they may be spending a ton of money, they typically don't have much to show for it. This is why almost half of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck, because they are more concerned with how much money they make and what people think of them, rather than how much money they keep and what they think of themselves. And at the end of the day, nobody really cares about what house you live in or what car you drive, or the clothes that you're wearing, as long as it's presentable. Once you understand all that, you begin to see every dollar you make as not just something you can spend on a cup of coffee or new sneakers, but as something that you can put to work to make you more money instead of having to directly work for it. So if you would like to get to that stage, here are the 6 tips that help me to avoid lifestyle inflation and keep my spending relatively the same month to month. So before you start doing anything, you have to do this one thing first, and that is to track your expenses. This video is all about how to avoid spending more money, but in order to do that, you have to know where you're starting from. So what I want you to do is just track everything you spend money on for the next 2 to 3 months. You don't even have to set a budget, just track it on a sheet of paper, a spreadsheet, or an app like Mint. All you have to do is write down 3 things for every purchase: the date, the amount, and what it was for. By doing this, you start to become more aware of the things you tend to spend the most money on and where you can improve. Once you start tracking your expenses, you should get a good idea of what you like to spend money on. So now what you should do is, instead of feeling bad about it, use it as motivation and as a reward for doing something you needed to get done. You can use it as a reward for working out, reading, cleaning, or just about anything else. But like everything, it has to be done in moderation so that the reward remains as something to be earned rather than expected. So how do you avoid lifestyle inflation and impulse purchases when you're in the moment and all the clever marketing is enticing you to spend your money? There's 2 things I want you to do before making any purchase. The first thing I want you to do is get out of there. Get out of there and just wait. I promise you that if you wait just one day, you will lose the urge to buy 90% of the things you thought you wanted. But if the urge is still there after a day, give this a shot. Instead of thinking about the price, think about how many hours of your life it would take for you to pay for it. So let's say you make $15 an hour and you want to buy the iPhone 12. Well, instead of looking at that as $829, look at that as 53 hours of your life that you will never get back. So for every non-essential purchase you think about making, just think to yourself first, is it really worth that much of your time? Because time is the one thing nobody can buy more of, and it is a lot easier to choose not to spend money rather than trying to make more money to pay for it. The 2 things I prioritize whenever spending on frivolous things is the experience I will get from it or the expected lifespan of any particular product. What I mean is that I would be more willing to spend money to go on a trip or to a restaurant with friends or family because I know I'll have a good time and that'll be something I can always reminisce on. While I don't do this very often, I do believe that it is essential to spend money on the things that bring you the most fulfillment, so long as you're not going to debt to pay for it. Because the whole reason why you should avoid lifestyle inflation so you can save and invest more money is so that you can have the freedom to spend your time and your money on the things that matter the most to you later in life. And the more you can save and invest when you're young, the faster that day will come. And the second thing I prioritize, like I mentioned earlier, is to place a higher value on the lifespan of a product. Anytime I'm about to buy something, I always think about how many times I expect to use it and whether or not it would be worth it to buy something a little more expensive but that will last longer. Because although something may cost more upfront, it will sometimes be cheaper in the long run because you won't have to replace it as often. And the same thing applies for food. I almost never order takeout because I would much rather just go to the grocery store and buy something that will last me 4 times longer for the same price. But overall, lifestyle inflation is not a bad thing. It's normal to want nicer things as you start making more money, but you want to delay it as much as you can and make lifestyle changes slowly, because once you get used to a certain style of living, it is very hard to move down a peg if you suddenly can't afford that level of luxury. But anyways guys, that wraps it up for this week's video. If you liked this video, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for a brand new video like this every week. And if you guys have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments down below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. And lastly, if you guys want 3 free stocks, make sure to sign up for Webull and deposit $100 using the link in the description below. And with that said guys, thank you all for watching and I will see you all next week with another video.